Okay, we'll continue with the skin, and now we go down to the hypodermis, which is subcutaneous fat. So we talked about the epidermis, now we talked about the dermis. Now we're going all the way down to the fat layer. It's a subcutaneous layer. Connective tissue differs for each region of the body. Some is thin and loose areolar tissue. Other areas are thick and fibrous with adipose tissue. Storage spot for fat. Now the other thing that, remember how we talked about humans have the same number of melanocytes, it's just the amount of melanin that's produced. When it comes to fat though, all humans have pretty much the same number of adipocytes as well, but the size of them are different, which increases the fat as well. Okay, so when people do liposuction, they're trying to get rid of the adipocytes. Okay. It contains large vessels, Pacinian corpuscles, which will measure deep pressure, pain. Contains encapsulated nerve endings known as Pacinian corpuscles. I always refer Pacinian to Al Pacino. Remember Al Pacino, Scarface? What does he do? He causes pain. That's the way I remember it. Again, I have weird little stories to remember, but hey, if it works for you, then as long as you get it right on the test. Okay, so those are the Pacinian corpuscles, and these are what fat cells look like. The hypodermis, what does it do? Well, it binds upper skin layers to deeper structures, right? So you have the epidermis and dermis. So the purpose of the hypodermis is to bind these layers to the deeper structures. Still allows skin to move freely. Palms, feet forms tough pads, collagen plus adipose to absorb shock, right? So we can absorb the shock here. Site of energy storage in the body, right? Fat gives you energy. If you've taken biology before or physiology, you know that carbs are definitely your main source of energy, but for sustained energy, we actually need fat. It insulates layer, so if you're really cold, you need fat to help you. Okay, and women need a certain amount of fat to maintain a regular menstrual cycle as well and healthy pregnancy. We will discuss that more in the reproductive system. Now, this is a little excessive hair, right? So hair, pili, 60 centimeters squared on the body and 600 centimeters squared on the face. So obviously you have a lot more hair on the face than you would do on the body, except for this gentleman. Some hair is obvious, others are very tiny. Absent from the palms and palmar surfaces. You don't have hair on your palms and the soles of your feet. Protect you from sun's rays. I mean, that's one of the main things. Your brows are there to protect sweat from going into your eyes, and eyelashes are there to protect your eyes as well. So learn the structure of the hair and hair shafts, be able to describe the mechanical process of hair standing up, which is the erector pili muscle, know the different types of glands, and be able to describe ceruminous glands. You're like, oh, what is that? Well, make sure you know that by the end of this lecture. The root, if you look at the hair, the root is the deep in the shaft, penetrating into the dermis and sometimes into the subcutaneous layer. Okay. So if you look at, here's the epidermis, just to get your bearings, here's the dermis, okay? Here's the hair, you have a cuticle, which is the outermost layer, then you have the cortex, which is the middle layer, then the medulla, which is the deepest layer. You have an external root sheet here. Here's the sebaceous gland, sebaceous meaning oil gland, that's close by. Then you have an internal root sheet, okay? And then the matrix is found deeper. You have 3 layers. Again, the innermost layer is the medulla, 2 to 3 rows of irregularly shaped cells with pigment granules. The medulla, the cortex, major part of the shaft, elongated cells with pigment granules and dark hair, mostly air spaces and gray hair, no pigmentation in white hair. Okay. And then the cuticle is the outermost layer, heavily keratinized, shingle-like. So you want to know these 3 layers, right? From deepest, middle to superficial. Now the hair follicle surrounds the root, internal and external root sheet together, called the epithelial root sheet. External at the surface has all epidermal layers. At base only has stratum basale. Okay. The bulb as the base of the follicle. Indentation in medial bulb, papilla of the hair, contains areolar connective tissue and many blood vessels. So here's another diagram. There's the sebaceous glands, which are the oil glands. That's why if you have oily hair, it makes sense because you have sebaceous glands attached to it. Here's the outermost here. Here's the hair shaft. Here's the hair matrix. And then here's the dermal papilla. The hair matrix, if you look right here, is the germinal cell layer, site of cell division, right here. Rises from the stratum basale and responsible for growth of existing hair. So if I ask you where does hair growth occur, that'll be in the hair matrix. Sebaceous glands, which are oil glands, branched acinar rounded glands, right in here, connected to the hair follicles. You do have these holochron glands. Sebaceous glands secreting portion lies in the dermis, opens into the neck of the follicle. In lips, glans pubis, labia minora, these open directly into the surface of the skin. Okay, so you do have these holochron glands right here. Here's the neck of the sebaceous gland. There's the sweat glands here. Okay. And there's the opening to the surface. They're the largest in the breast, face, neck, and upper chest. They're lined with cuboidal cells, develop lipid-filled vesicles in cytoplasm. They rupture, which is sebum, which is a mixture of fats, cholesterol, proteins, and inorganic salts. So sometimes you can get infections in here. Okay, so don't pop your pimples. Okay, speaking of acne, here we go. Acne is an inflammation of these sebaceous glands, usually from bacterial colonization. Bacteria love sebum. Yum, yum, yum. Right? Infection causes cyst of connective tissue, which destroy replace epidermal cells. You can get cystic acne. So again, the number one cause of acne is bacterial. So don't touch your face, don't rub that. Try to keep it as clean as possible. You don't want to over clean it, then it dries it out, then your body produces more oil. So it's like a vicious cycle. You got to find a balance. And now if you're on TikTok, you have so many dermatologists on TikTok telling you to buy 80 million products, and you're like, well, which one do I buy? So everyone is different. Just because it works for one patient or yourself doesn't mean it'll work for somebody else. So you just have to experiment and see which one's the best. The less, the better, right? The less products you can use, the better. So a cleanser, a moisturizer, some vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, and then maybe some retinol to prevent aging process. But the less, the better. If you have 500 products in your medicine cabinet for skin, it's probably a little too much. Okay. Again, the erector pili muscles are what give you goosebumps. Smooth muscle, so it's involuntary. Smooth muscle, you can't control it. I can't say, hey, give me goosebumps right now. I can't voluntarily control it. Extending from the superficial dermis of the skin to connective tissue. The autonomic nervous system controls it. Fight, fright, cold to elevate, hair permanent. So if you're scared, right, if you're ready to fight someone, or if you get cold, then the erectors, you might get goosebumps. Sudiferous glands. It's like a SAT vocabulary there, sudiferous. 4 million sweat glands emit secretions by exocytosis and empty through hair follicles. There's two types of sweat glands. You have the eccrine glands, aka American sweat glands. Most sweat glands, these are there for temperature regulation. If you get too hot, you sweat, right, to bring your core temperature down. The apocrine glands, sometimes stinky lipid. This is what gives you nasty smells, right? They're found in your groin, your axilla. That's why your armpits smell, nipples, or specialized lactiferous ceruminous. Okay, so the apocrine glands. So sometimes stinky lipid. Okay, so please make sure you know the difference between eccrine glands and apocrine glands. So, oh, here they are. The merocrine glands. So again, you have the eccrine glands, also aka merocrine sweat glands, and the apocrine glands. Merocrine glands: water, sodium, chloride, urea, uric acid, ammonia, amino acids, glucose, and lactic acid. It regulates temperature through evaporation. Insensible, not perceived. Cold sweats, functional from birth. Okay, so these are functional from birth. Apocrine glands they're found in axilla, groin, areola, the beards of males, more viscous than merocrine glands. So these are clear secretions. These are more viscous. Includes myoepitheliocytes, helps squeeze out secretions. Bacterian secretions decompose proteins, causing this musky body odor. That's why your armpits stink, because you mix that sweat with bacteria. They turn on in puberty. Okay, so please know the difference between merocrine and apocrine. These turn on in puberty. They're influenced by hormones, but the ability to regulate your body temperature has to be there from birth, right? You can't wait till puberty to say, oh, I'm going to cool my body now. No, this is survival. Ceruminous glands, these are found in your ears. Okay, specialized apocrine glands, yellow and waxy in the ear canal, combined with sebaceous secretions to form cerumen, which is earwax. So you don't want to use Q-tips to push that earwax further in, because that can get impacted there. So you have to be careful. But don't do any of those TikTok crazy things where they're lighting candles and putting all that crap in there as well. You have to be careful. Every year kids go into the ER because of a ruptured eardrum because they stick that Q-tip all the way in. And don't put hydrogen peroxide in there either. That's, unless you have a lot of wax buildup, but you have to be very, very careful of what you stick in here. Okay, so there are some ear drops that you can put. They can get at CVS, a few drops, and then it'll come out. But if you can see it superficially, just use the Q-tip. You don't want to insert the Q-tip all the way in your ear canal. The mammary glands, they're also apocrine glands specialized for milk production. They usually turn on during pregnancy. Now nails, you have the body of the nail, you have the lunula and the cuticle. If you go get your nails done, these are the cuticles. Here's the body, here's the root of the nail, okay? And then the epinchium or eponychium, proximal nail fold that projects onto the nail body. Okay, so if you see that epichyme. Now, you can get ingrown nails, which are nasty. That's called onchocryptosis. Nail grows so that it cuts one of both sides of the nail bed. Starts as a microbial inflammation of the parenchyma due to downward or sideways pressure. Only found in shoe-wearing cultures because it's real tight. And they're usually treated with antibiotics, but may require surgery to remove the entire nail bed there. But this is neglect here. You want to make sure that you're cutting your nails and being very diligent with hygiene here. What do your nails tell you? I mean, a lot of these are interesting in the sense that you don't want to be too scared. Some of you have brittle nails, yellow nails, might be diabetic. But the two that I'm really concerned about is if we see dark streaks here. Well, first of all, it could just be a broken blood vessel. It could be psoriasis, but it could also indicate that you have endocarditis, which is a heart infection. Okay. And then the other one that I'm concerned about is clubbing of the fingers. So if you can do this, right? And if I can see a little diamond shape, then you're in the clear. That means that you don't have clubbing. And now clubbing could be genetic, but when we're concerned is it could tell us there's an underlying heart condition. And we want to, if all we want to do is ask the patient, hey, do you have a cardiologist? Have you seen a cardiologist? They're like, no. We're like, well, you might want to do a follow-up. It's not an emergency, but it's indicating that there might be an underlying heart issue that we might want to get checked out. You don't want to ignore those signs. Okay, it's better to get those checked out. Okay, so the other ones where it's brittle nails, the ridges this way, some of those just could be vitamin deficiencies, or it could just be genetic. I'm not worried about all the little things here, but the two main ones that I'm worried about is if I see a patient with clubbing or if they see these dark streaks. Now, if you have one dark streak, it's not, but if you have it on multiple areas, then I'd be concerned. Okay. All right, good job.